Just as we were walking up the gate to walk across the landing strip, the alarm went off. And I'm like, what's going on? Is there a fire? And they're like, no, a plane is coming in. And the gates went down. And then they go, get your phone out, get your phone out. And I was like, okay, still not grasping what was about to happen. And then this big plane comes across. I filmed it. I was like, oh my God. Then the gates go up. I go, what's going on? Well, now you can walk across the landing strip. I go, no way. So we did. And I was like, that is the coolest thing. And you know what that costs? Nothing.
Welcome to the Where Have You Been podcast. I'm your host, Bill Ream, and each week on the pod, I have conversations with incredible guests from all walks of life. Expect to hear funny, crazy, emotional, life-changing, and even sometimes life-threatening stories and experiences that will entertain and inspire you. As always, I appreciate your likes, subscriptions, ratings, and reviews wherever you are listening. It doesn't sound like much, but it truly helps the pod get to the ears of more people who may enjoy it. And check out the website, whybpodcast.com, for links to the socials where you can find pictures from the guests and their stories, and also buy merch if you're so inclined. Now let's get to this week's episode. Thank you for being here. And welcome into another episode of the Where Have You Been podcast, of course. I'm your host, as always, Bill Ream, and welcome on in. I have another incredible guest. I know I say it every week, but I know this is going to be a fantastic show for everyone. I have someone very, very unique who I don't think we've had the likes of as a guest on the show before. I have a professional cruiser. I'm going to label you that whether you like it or not. And puzzling host. I have Monica on the show today. Monica, thank you for being here. And if you don't mind, would you tell the listeners, who are you?
Oh, well, thank you for having me, and what a build-up. Oh, my name is Monica. On Instagram, I am referred to as Puzzled About Everything. And my husband and I, yes, we do cruise a lot. We cruise quite a lot. And with our cruising, we usually bring a puzzle. And doing that, just jumping ahead, we now have these puzzling gigs on Royal Caribbean where 2 to 4 times a year we host puzzling events on Royal Caribbean, and we just bring a whole bunch of puzzles with us for the guests on board to enjoy.
And so, and you and I talked about this, and I love the story of how this happened. But do you mind telling the listeners kind of how, just that, how did this actually come to be?
Yes, I get that asked a lot. So, as I said, I cruise a lot. And when there's a sea day, I would bring a puzzle. And we'd sit in the solarium, and often people stop by and go, oh, what a great idea. It's just like someone sitting in the solarium and they're reading a book, or people play their cards, or they bring their board games. I bring a puzzle. One day we were sitting there and we had quite a few people. They joined us and we were talking. And I had the idea, and I said to my husband, you know, we work with so many puzzle brands. I am a puzzle influencer on Instagram. We work with so many puzzle brands that I bet you I could get a lot of puzzles and we could host puzzling events on the cruise line. So we talked about it and the idea developed. There's a big thing with puzzling right now. It's trending. It's called speed puzzling. So you actually race other people. Everyone gets the same puzzle and you race each other. It took a while to find the right person with Royal Caribbean, and my pitch was them. I'd like to host speed puzzling events. And I think I had 4 puzzle brands that gave me a whole bunch of the same puzzles. And we brought them on board. And our first trip was from Sydney, Australia, all the way to Hawaii. It was a new concept, and they were very thrilled about the idea. And they're like, oh my God, this is so creative. Yes, let's try it. So first day, yes, we had people come down and everyone's like, oh, this is so interesting. I love puzzling. And then when I sort of said, oh, we're racing the room, they all went, huh? So we raced against each other. 2 or 3 people liked it. The majority of the room did not like it. They're like, I'm here on this cruise ship and I just want to relax. Like, why do I have to race against people? That's not how I puzzle. So we quickly adapted, and I had some extra puzzles with me, and I said, okay, here are all my puzzles. We have 3 hours, pick a puzzle, and you can build the puzzle. And that's how we started doing it. And every cruise, I learn a little bit more, just again, because it's a new idea. I have a specific room that I always request, the dining room. And then we have to work in between the dining room meal times, like between breakfast and lunch and dinner. So we now only get 2 hours. They have to have nice big tables, but we easily get over 100 people coming down now. And every sea day, we puzzle when we are hosting these puzzle events. And every cruise, we just got off a cruise of like 4 days ago, and every cruise, everyone's like, "Oh my gosh, you should be on every ship. Like, this is amazing. This is so fun."
That's awesome. How many have you done now?
I think I've done 6 of them now.
That's awesome. And do you find at this point now, and it's, I know six is a lot, maybe not enough to have this experience yet, but have you had people kind of seek out when they find out that you're going to be doing a cruise? Now that they've done it, have they come back?
You know what? I've done more than 6 now that you said that, because there is a couple that was just on this cruise, and I said, "Gosh, you guys have been on a lot of our cruises with the puzzling. How many has it been?" She goes, "5." And I was like,
Oh
"Oh,
my
I got
gosh.
more than 6 then. Okay." So yes, we do have people following us on this cruise. Somebody came up to me and they're like, "Oh, I was on your first cruise when you were leaving from Sydney." And I went, "Oh my God, yes, I remember you. How have you been?" So yes, we do get people specifically booking to do cruises with us because they like that activity. Other ones just stumble, like it was just pure luck that, oh, I'm on the cruise, and they've booked a cruise and like, this is great. Other people, they send me a DM and they say, "We'd like to book another cruise. What are your next cruise puzzling events?" So I give that to them. So yes, we have some people following us.
I think that's awesome. And I hope Royal Caribbean knows this or they're listening to the podcast so they make sure that they keep on doing this arrangement with you because it's awesome.
It's a lot of fun because now that people are coming back on the cruise, I definitely change my puzzles because I don't want to bring 200 puzzles. And every time I come back, the unpacking with the puzzles, I make little notes. Okay, this puzzle's been on 2 cruises. That's done. And now I rotate new puzzles in. So if somebody has been on a cruise with us, there's always new puzzle images for them to do.
That's fantastic. It has to be a lot more work than you'd probably think.
Oh,
But if you enjoy that, I mean, keeping track of the puzzles is like a puzzle in itself. Sounds like.
it is, like, there's just so many different elements to it, like, we bring 2 huge full suitcases, and, like, my husband's 75 years old, and it's getting really heavy, and on our way back, our flights, we had to, just the way it was, we had to have separate flights home, and I had to take both big suitcases, and I'm like, "Well, now this is gonna be interesting. How am I gonna get that off the, um, the baggage claim carousel, because 'cause they're too heavy for me."
Right?
But I asked somebody and they helped me, so that was good. But there's always these little things that happen, like, okay."
That that's hilarious. So, before we get too much further into anything, can you mentioned I think the Instagram. What else do you have for socials? Where else can people find you?
Oh, I do TikTok, but I just don't feel I resonate there, and did try YouTube. Again, I don't feel I connect with that, and even YouTube, you have to film things differently, and I just sort of came to the conclusion that puzzling is fun for me. All these other platforms, it is work, like your podcast is work. And my husband and I were saying we are retired and what we do, it's fun. Yes, I work on Royal Caribbean and I like doing that. And I'll record and I'll take pictures and stuff. But more than that, it's work and I sort of get consumed by it. And we had a long talk and we said, no, we're not getting caught up in the social media. So the best place to find me is on Instagram. However, you just type in "puzzled about everything." I'm out there in the universe. My name comes up. I've been interviewed on TVs and newspapers. There's always something written about me. So you'll be able to find me even if you just type my name in. And then I do have a website.
Excellent. What is the website?
puzzled about everything.
All right, that's what I thought. And I'll put everything in the show notes as well and make sure everyone has a chance to get in touch with you if they're interested. One other thing I remember you telling me well, the first time that we talked is you're inspiring people too, not just necessarily to puzzle, but to maybe even purchase puzzles as souvenirs, as memories of the places that they've been, right?
I do. My reach always surprises me. I see that I'm learning more about that, and there's so many different levels. Like for my age, I am retired. Not telling you how old I am. Older. Uh, just to learn the platforms and be present on the platforms and have a big following. Like on my Instagram account, I have 17,000 followers. That's pretty big for the puzzle niche that I'm in. That there are a lot of young puzzle influencers in there. I'm not the prettiest person out there, but people follow my content and like my content. What I do when I puzzle, when I finish a puzzle, I often do a deconstruction, which is like a stop motion, moving the pieces around and make a cool little video. Like I do little effects to it. I've had a few have gone viral, and people go, "Oh my god, that's just amazing." And I know I've inspired a lot of people who are new to being an empty nester, being retired, or not even those, or a stay-at-home mom or somebody going, "Hey, if she can do it, I should be able to do it." And they've reached out and asked for advice with regards to what apps do I use and how do you do that? And I was like, wow, this is very cool that I've have this gig with Royal Caribbean. Everyone's like, this is amazing. Like, this is the best retirement. And I go, yeah. And I'm like, yeah, who knew retirement could be so fun? Like, when I became an empty nester with my husband was still working. I was like, gosh, what am I going to do with my time? And that's how I started puzzling, and it's just exploded from there. I get up in the morning, and I'm very happy because I have a puzzle project to do. So I have that reach. When I'm on the cruise ship and when I'm traveling, the people that come down to our events, they've got all day to kill. They don't want to go and watch the sexiest man at the pool, or they don't want to do the ping pong tournament. They see puzzling and they come down and like, oh, I haven't puzzled in a few years. I'll give it a go. I bring over 40 different brands, and they're from jigsaw puzzles, like cardboard puzzles, shape puzzles, irregular pieces, wood puzzles, plastic puzzles, acrylic puzzles. And they're like overwhelmed, like, I had no idea there were so many different types of puzzles. So now I'm influencing people, hey, puzzling is fun. And they come to me after our cruise and they said, I forgot I like puzzling and I'm going to do more puzzling. It was very calming and I'm going to continue with puzzling. Thank you for reintroducing it to me. And then when we travel, often, again, this is with the people that are on our cruise. I remember we were in Greece on a recent cruise, and we went to Santorini in Greece, and we walked up the big cliff, or we took the tram up to the cliff, and you're walking along, and you're looking at the coastline, and it's just gorgeous with all the architecture and the blue domes. And standing right there in the pathway is a vendor selling a puzzle of that exact same theme. And I have people coming up to me on the cruise the next day when we're hosting a puzzling event, and they go, guess what I bought? And I know, I go, you bought a puzzle yesterday because I saw it too. So people are buying puzzles to remember their trip. And there's so many puzzles, travel puzzles, and a perfect one would be the Eiffel Tower in Paris. Like, you're in Paris and you're like, I want to remember my trip with my partner, and they'll buy that puzzle and they bring it home. They may build it right away. They might put it away. Every year they take it out and they remember their trip. So you'll see a lot of puzzle brands have this whole series of destination puzzles, and they're quite popular.
It's a great idea, especially if you wanted to maybe have a large framed photograph or a large framed print of a place. Why not do it as a puzzle instead? You get the
Abs-
activity of doing it, so you can talk about your memories while you're actually putting it together and then frame it and hang it on the wall.
And that's exactly what happens. Like if you sat with your partner, whoever you traveled with, or even they were just your friends, and you're like, "Hey, we were at the Taj Mahal, and I bought this puzzle of the Taj Mahal. Let's build it." And then you tell all of a sudden you remember all these things. They just come out, and you can share your stories with your friends or your family. So it's great.
Yeah, that's awesome. I really, and it's something too that like I love puzzling. I always have. It was always a fun activity to do with the kids or just by myself or again with my partner or whatever. And it's just one of those things that once, you put it down, you put it away, and maybe you think, okay, well, I'm good with puzzling for a while, and then life happens. And then I
Yep.
just forget that it even exists until I meet you, who is the queen of puzzling, the queen of cruising, and whatever else I can throw at you. But yeah, it makes me want to go out and maybe run to a Barnes and Noble or something and pick up a puzzle.
Well, you see, that's my reach again, and I hear stories like that all the time, and it makes me really happy. It's all the people on the cruisers. I get if I have a group of 100 people come down, there's probably 10 people that are real puzzlers. The other 90 are very casual, haven't done it in years and years and years. And then they're the ones that go, I'm going to go buy a puzzle. Or they have bought that puzzle from whatever port we are at. And they're like, I'm going to make sure I do a puzzle once a week or every other week because this is just so good. And so I was like, wow, I did my thing.
Yeah. And the last thing I'll say before we get to the bulk of what the episode or what the podcast is this also just dawned on me. I just actually I have a one of those photo frames, the digital ones, and I just saw a photo that I took a couple of years ago um, in Milan in Italy, and it's a beautiful photo of the Duomo there, the cathedral there. And
Yep.
I was just thinking, like, you can send high quality photographs in to places that will produce a puzzle for you. So not only are you doing a puzzle of a memory of a place or a photo, you took that photo. It's a true memory.
I'm so glad you mentioned that because, yes, I think like Walmart might do that, but there are actual puzzle brands that will do that. And I just think it's fantastic that like you can be standing in front of some place with the Eiffel Tower in the background and you're standing with your partner. And then, like you said, you take that picture and then you can send it to the puzzle company and they will build that. They'll make a puzzle for you. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's awesome. Well, this is great. I love what you're doing. I know we're going to hear more about it as we talk through some travel stories of yours. But let me ask you this, and take it any way you'd like, Monica. Where have you been?
I just finished a transatlantic cruise. We left New York and we finished in Barcelona, Spain, which was just great. So, like I said, it was just about 4 days ago. Other than that, we have traveled a lot, but we can start with that trip if you want.
Yeah, absolutely. And and I do want to touch on. We don't have to do it right this moment, but I want to talk at some point about how you had mentioned offline how travel has really changed over time for you. And you know what I did? I do want to go back for a second because I always ask this question and it slipped my mind with you. And I'm sorry, just I was so engaged with the puzzling. But when did travel become a thing in your life? How did it start for you? Were you traveling as a kid? Did you go on cruises when you were young, or how did all of this start for you? Just travel in general or the cruises?
That's a great question because for so many people, they have different answers. Like maybe it's your work and you have to travel a lot and you got the bug that way. Both of my parents were from Germany. So when we were kids, we would always go over in the summer and visit relatives. And our parents were really good. Like we did that for years. We would go to Germany. And I have a brother and a sister. And I can tell you, when we were in Germany, our aunts and uncles would take us to other countries just to show us things. We were very young. I remember some things, but not all. But we always traveled. And then March break, my mother had a place in Florida. Like I'm in Toronto, Canada, and we would go down spring break, and we would be in the States and March break sit in the sun. So I know as a child we traveled a lot and I remember my friends, a lot of them have never left the province, let alone the country. So I knew we were doing a lot of traveling as children. Now, as a mom of 3 children, it was important to me that we exposed our kids to traveling because I know a lot of friends, the same thing is they would just do a camping trip in the province, be it that's what they preferred or money, but I have personally always traveled my whole life, and it's just part of me, and my children are adults now, and they don't travel as much. It's like life is happening, you have full-time jobs, and you don't have that flexibility as much, but they've all said at one point or another and said, "We are so appreciative of all the traveling that we did when we were kids," and they recognize, as I did as a young person, that they did a lot of traveling, whereas their friends have not.
Yeah. So it kind of just became, you never necessarily really had to have like an aha moment. It was more of just, this is something that I've been doing since I was a child and I enjoy it and I'm going to continue to do it.
Absolutely, and there's just so like, I remember, gosh, we went to a lot of places, but as you're 7, 8 years old, you really don't know what you're seeing, but, like, I remember we went to Ecuador. We spent a whole summer there because my dad was working there, and just it's a culture shock, like, as a seven-year-old, you don't know what that means, okay? But all of a sudden, you can't have the food, you're not watching TV or whatever, we got to experience something very different. And then you come back and you're in the city and life goes on. But all of a sudden there's like, oh, wait a minute. Some people don't even have clothes and they can't eat. There's just all of a sudden being 7 years old, you realize where you are, something's different. All right. The whole world isn't where I am right now. The whole world, it's different for everybody, and we did it with our children as well. Like, we just were more empathetic to somebody that might have been in our school system that came from another country because they were probably there, and they're like, "Oh, we can be more gracious and more kind to these people. We don't know what they're coming from." Or somebody that just stays, they don't have that empathy.
Yeah, absolutely. I think travel does so many things for someone as far as enriching their lives and changing outlooks on different things and whatever. And that's one of the things I kind of preach with the podcast. And, like this is mostly about just hearing some entertaining stories, but it's, it becomes so much more because travel is so much more than just the
Yeah.
stories. And so, did you, when you, and I know this wasn't necessarily the topic we were going to jump on, but like, what kind of places do you remember taking your kids to, just out of curiosity?
Where did we go? Well, we did. Okay, let me just think. We absolutely did the touristy things in the States a lot on March break and stuff. So, like the Grand Canyon in California, in Florida, in New York, stuff like that, Boston, Chicago. We did that with them. And I remember we did a really big trip with them where we took them to Germany, and I said, "This is where mom got to go every summer." And that was their aha moment of traveling to Europe. They're like, "Oh my gosh!" And then we took them to Venice, which that they loved, and they were a little bit older, but they were just loving it. And we every Friday night we would do a family night movie. Um, and oh, I'm just remembering now, Kate and the Olsen twins. They would okay, they would have these series. They would be in Australia, New York, or whatever, and we started saying, "Oh, we were there. Remember we were there?" And watching a family movie now became, "Oh, I know where that spot is," without saying anything. And I was like, it's important that we try and hit those popular places so that you can see where it is. And as adults now, when we watch a movie, like again, and we're in Toronto, we're like, "Oh, well, this isn't our city. This is in Toronto." And all of us still do that. So I really like going to places with them that were popular that they might see on a TV show or a movie.
I think you've been to almost as many, if not more, large cities in the states here than I have, which is kind of funny. But it's one of those things, right? I mean, when you live in a country or whatever, sometimes when you think of travel, a lot of times you think about getting outside of the country instead of doing things inside. And I'm definitely guilty of that. There's so many places in the United States I need to explore. I've done very little in Canada, just to be honest. I've been to Montreal. I've been to Quebec. I've been to Toronto, in the falls, of course. But I lived just south of Buffalo, New York. So I mean, the border was right there, and I still didn't do much of that. It's like one of those things I think that we say like, oh, it's here, I can go anytime. And instead of doing that, we go other places, and then we just don't do it. I've told this story before. I lived in New York State all my life until I was in my mid 30s, moved to Pittsburgh. And that was when I moved to Pittsburgh, it was the first time I ever went to New York City. I just never went.
I don't know what to say. I know we pushed ourselves like it was expensive. Yes, it was expensive, but we're just like the kids grew up so fast. We and I didn't necessarily want to go to a lot of these places. I was like, no, we're gonna do it with the kids. Like you talk about visiting the places that are nearby you. Like we're in Canada. I was like, no, we have to start spending time in Canada. Like we went to Newfoundland, Montreal, Quebec, Vancouver. It's important that they see all these things. And again, they have the travel bug, but it is easy just to sit back and go, one day I'll do it. But one day often just gets carried away.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Well, let's transition. Let's talk a little bit about your most recent trip, the cruise that you went on. And I keep sidetracking and I'm so sorry, but my mind races. And I just wanted to ask you too, do you at this stage of your life, I know we were going to talk about maybe how travel changes, but do you do other traveling that is not cruise related, or do you pretty much focus on cruises because that's what you enjoy now?
Yes, we focus on cruises, but I it's comfortable for us, but we still do a few other places. Like my daughter lives in San Francisco, so we're traveling there a lot now. And then when we're in San Francisco, we'll do driving trips that are nearby because I've not been there. So like she's showing me a lot, and I'm like, oh, well, driving up the coast, I'm like, oh, this is very nice. And all the small towns that are around her, they're all quite gorgeous. So we do that. And then my other daughter is in Ottawa. So when we're up in Ottawa, we'll do hiking and nice things there. But basically, we do 2 to 4 puzzling cruises a year, and the rest of the cruises are destinations that my husband and I would like to do. In actually 3 weeks, we're leaving again, and we will be going to Japan to pick up a cruise, and this is just for us. We'll be going to Japan about 5 days early, and we'll do some exploring on our own, and then we'll take the cruise back, and it will end up in Vancouver, and that's so we're all over the board, I guess.
That's incredible. What a great way to do it, actually. And, I think that's one of the cool things with cruises too is if you find a cruise leaving from a port in a place that you haven't been, to be able to spend some extra days there if you can, because a lot of the times with the cruises you don't necessarily get as much time as you'd like to maybe see the places that you port at, because you know at least the cruise that I've been on was more of it's like a day trip when you get to a
Yeah.
place. And so, but anyways, yeah, let's talk about your most recent one. You said it was transatlantic, right? And so, what did you see? Where did you go? And how was the puzzling?
Well, I want to segue back to that question for a second. Sorry.
Okay, sure. No, absolutely,
You
absolutely.
made a good point because when you are cruising, like it is a day trip and it's a half a day trip. If you're doing the Caribbean, honestly, what do we do when we go to the Caribbean? You're sitting on the sand and having a bucket of beer, and that's perfect. That port is perfect. You may do a little adventure going into the forest, the rainforest, or whatever. Those cruises are great. But when you are going on a European cruise, there's just not a Mediterranean cruise. The port time is way too short. There's no way that you can go and say, we were in Malaga, Spain, Malaga. Well, we're there for 6 hours. There's no way that you can tell me that you can appreciate that beautiful city in 6 hours. All right. And we go to some amazing places. Sometimes you have to drive an hour to get into wherever that city is. Like in Rome, where the port is, it's an hour and a half drive. You literally have 4 hours. You're with all these other cruises. You can barely get into one touristy area because we all are there in line, and then you have to catch the bus back. So you really cannot experience these beautiful ports that you get to go to when you're doing Europe and the Mediterranean and some other places. But you can get a taste for it. And we often saying, this is a place I would like to come back to and spend 3 or 4 days rather than just the 6 hours that you're there. So if you can't decide where you want to go, I think those types of cruises are a good experiment for you. And even if it was a river cruise,
I
they
was
take
just
you
going
down.
to ask you about that. I was just going to ask if you've done river cruises.
We've done one, and I had a cabin that was, like, water level, like, half of my window was water, and it freaked me out, and I said, "Why didn't we upgrade and get a better room?" I go, "I can't sleep at night. I keep thinking that there's gonna be an accident," and we go, "We can't get it. We'll be gone. We're gonna drown. That water's gonna come in so fast." So I really had a lot of anxiety on that one, but we went to such charming European cities along in Germany along the Rhine. But again, the timing is horrible. We get there at 9 o'clock. The shops, they don't open till 10 or 10:30. So you're sort of walking around. You're like, oh, okay. And then the Papa bands where you want to have, your beer stein there. Well, all that action doesn't happen till 5 o'clock or even maybe 7 o'clock. You're back on board by 4:30 and you're moving along. So what did I really get to do? Not what I wanted to do. So the river cruise again is a great opportunity to see what small towns maybe you'd like to go back and spend 2 or 3 days or drive along the water there and pick what castle you'd like to go on. But the river cruise, very short ports. And I was like, oh, wow, we have to do that differently next time.
Yeah, we did do a Caribbean cruise, and we decided to take the kids in to the Bahamas there where they have the Atlantis
Yep.
water park and then hotel and whatever you want to resort, I guess. And we got there so early that, and they were like talking about it. Like, you want to go to Atlantis? Here's whatever. And nothing was even open. Atlantis wasn't open when we got there. And then when we got in there, none of the concessions were open. So like the kids are hungry and want a
Oh,
snack or something to drink. Nothing was open until about an hour before we had to leave.
oh, see, and they don't tell you that. And that place is really expensive. That I have not been there. I see it every time, and every time my husband goes, "You're only gonna get like 2 hours out of that, Monica, and that's $500. We're not doing it."
Yeah, it wasn't cheap. The kids had fun during the time that they were able to do it, and they were young enough that they didn't really care that much. But
Yeah.
yeah, I completely concur. But yeah, so how was this recent one?
Oh, this recent one. Okay, so right. So we left New York, and that was interesting because we left and it was that superstorm. So we were in a hurry to leave that port because we didn't want the storm on us. So we rushed out, but then there was another storm brewing out in the ocean. So we were sort of trapped in between two storm cells. So it was a little bit rocky for and the first 7 days were all sea days, so they were all puzzling days. But you know what, that's when you get the opportunity to really meet people and chat, and you just have to, and it was cold, you just got to go with it and enjoy the moment and make the best of it. And we met wonderful people. That's in I'm going to segue a little bit. The stage in my life now, it's not so much about saying, "Oh, I saw this and I've been this," and I that's not important to me. I'm present on what's happening. It's the moment. It's not about making all these memories anymore. It's just having a great time in a different experience. It was very different than when we were traveling with the kids. It was all about them. Are they having fun and family bonding time? Now when we cruise, it's just like this is different from sitting at home and stuff like that. We're seeing different things and meeting new people. So those first 7 days, lovely. And then we were at a few ports. Okay, I'm going to try to remember which ones we were at. We had we went to Malaga, which we've been there before, and actually we had friends who met us at the port. They live in our city, but they rent an apartment in Malaga for 2 months. So they were showing us all different things that I thought I knew everything about Malaga, but they were very kind and they picked us up and they drove us around. I go, well, this was amazing. So that was fun. Um, one of the really interesting ports that we went to was Gibraltar. And we had been there once before on a cruise. And on that cruise, you hurry off the cruise. And if you walk or take a cab, we went and we did the tram that takes you up the rock. And that was very nice. But as often as it is in Gibraltar, it was cloudy. You couldn't see much. But I was very happy we did it. This time going to Gibraltar, that tram taking up to the rock was closed. So I was like, oh, I'm glad we did it when we could. And it's being refurbished. So it's going to be closed for 2 years. So people were like, oh, well, now what do we do in Gibraltar? So I was really happy we did that. Sort of thought about that tram a little bit more because it was quite rickety. And with that terrible tragedy that happened in Lisbon with that tram trolley, the push pull, it's the same in Gibraltar. I think that was sort of a red flag for them saying it's time for us to refurbish our tram because it could happen here as well. So I think that was a good thing that happened with that accident in Lisbon that, these other old things are people are going, we need to invest some money. Tourism is a big thing here. We need to make it better. Honestly, with the cruise ships that go into Gibraltar, it can't handle the volume of people that want to go up and down that rock. So it's a good thing that's being refurbished. But I'm bringing the point up about Gibraltar because I said, well, what should we do now that that tram's not open? So I know there is a young puzzle influencer. It's her mother who runs the account. She is a little speed puzzler prodigy. She is amazing. And they reached out to me before. If you ever come, please let us know. We'd like to meet you. So this time I was like, I'm going to reach out to them. And she and her husband took the day off work and they picked us up from the port and they took us all over Gibraltar. I was like, oh my God, they are the kindest people. How sweet. And they took us. Uh, this is a place I've been, and I hope your followers try this because I didn't know. They took us to the airport. There's only one landing strip, and the landing strip divides Gibraltar and Spain. They only get about 4 flights a day. So this is what happens is when there is no plane landing or taking off, gates are open and you can walk across. You can take your scooter, you can take your bike, and you can go across the landing strip to Spain, to the other side. So you're actually walking across the landing strip. And if there's a plane coming, a little alarm goes beep, 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 and you have to hurry across to whatever side you're going to. The gates go down, you wait, and the plane comes in and lands, and then the gates go up again. And I was like, you're
Wow.
kidding me. So we went out. So we were very lucky because we pulled up in the car, and there is actually a tunnel that goes under the landing strips for the car. And they said that's fairly new, maybe in the last few years, but before the cars were allowed to drive across the landing strip
Oh
and
my
go to
gosh.
Spain. And I'm just like, get out of town. And they said there must be between 10 to 20,000 people from Spain that cross over daily to Gibraltar because it's cheaper to live in Spain than it is in Gibraltar. And they all work in Gibraltar but live in Spain. So that is what they do. So I'm just like, no way. So just as we were walking up the gate to walk across the landing strip, the alarm went off. And I'm like, what's going on? Is there a fire? And they're like, no, a plane is coming in. And the gates went down. And they go, get your phone out, get your phone out. And I was like, okay, still not grasping what was about to happen. And then this big plane comes across. I filmed it. I was like, oh my God. Then the gates go up. I go, what's going on? Well, now you can walk across the landing strip. I go, no way. So we did. And I was like, that is the coolest thing. And you know what that costs? Nothing.
Oh my gosh. First of all, I feel like that would never happen in the States,
It wouldn't happen anywhere.
right? Yeah, what a cool experience.
That was really, really cool. And then at the end of the day, they took their little daughter out of school early so that, like, I'm a puzzle influencer, she's a puzzle influencer, that we could meet, and we went on the main street, and they have all these nice little cafes and restaurants, and it's only pedestrians, no cars, so it's quite charming. And I got to meet this wonderful, this kindest, just a beautiful little girl. She was 11 years old, and she speed puzzled in front of me, and she did, like, I don't know how many pieces was it, 100 piece or 54 pieces. She did it in 2 minutes, and I had to pick my jaw up off the floor. I was like, "Oh my god, child, you're amazing." Puzzling with 2 hands, and as she's turning them over, she's sorting them and putting pieces together. I was like, "Oh my goodness." It was just a great, great day. And then they took us back to the ship, and I said to
What's
my husband, sorry?
I was just gonna say, what do you think is her secret? Do you think it's that she has such great recognition of the images to be able to know where they need to be placed that quickly?
Well,
The
her
shapes?
mother told me a really cool story, and I was like, "Oh, I did something like that with my kids." So when my eldest daughter, when she was around 2 or whatever, she'd always get up early, and, you're dying, you need to sleep, you need that extra hour sleep, and they're getting up at 6 o'clock. You're like, "It's Saturday, please let me sleep till 7." And I decided to put books by her bed. And I said, "If you get up and mom and dad are sleeping, you stay in your room and you can look at all these beautiful books and you can tell me about them in the morning." And that created her love for reading. We got to sleep an extra hour. And, she says, my eldest, I did it with all three of my kids, but my eldest daughter said, she goes, "I know why I like reading, because this is what you did with me." So the mother of this little puzzler, she did the same thing except with puzzles. So when your child is small, there's a two-piece puzzle. So you can talk, they were animals, talk about zoo animals, because we're always you're trying to improve their vocabulary. So they would recognize what an elephant is, what a lion is, what a giraffe is. So there's two pieces. So she would put out all these puzzles in the morning, and she would say, "Now, if you get up in the morning and mom and dad are sleeping, you keep yourself busy until we get up, and here's some puzzles for you." And the mother said she would get up in the morning and there would be 30 puzzles, just two pieces, like the back half of a lion and the front half of a lion pieced together. There'd be 30 of these projects all put together, and that created her love for puzzling. And the mother said she wanted her to do puzzling because it helps with your fingers, the mobility with your fingers, the hand-eye coordination. You see something and you pick it up and it matches, which I all agree with. So she was just that's why she chose puzzles, not realizing how brilliant her daughter was. And I was like, I'm going to pass it along to my daughter, because now she has two young children. I go, "Forget the books, do the puzzling."
Yeah, no doubt. I wonder how long it took for her to graduate from the two-piece to then maybe
Oh,
a
she said it went
50
fast.
piece
It
and
it went fast, and then there's so many puzzles. So from there, then they did the wood puzzles, because some wood puzzles for kids, you can get it with a handle and then with a little knob on it and put it in place. And she goes, there was just an explosion of so many options, and she grew out of all the puzzle series so quickly. And I was like, "That's amazing."
yeah, that's incredible. Very cool. And I interrupted you before, and I apologize. You were about to say that at the end of that day, turned to your husband and you said,
Oh, now I can't remember what. Oh, I go, "That was the best day." Having somebody local taking you around and, discovering the charm of that city. Oh, it was so interested that Gibraltar's very small. Well, I can't remember how many she said live there. I can't remember the number. But as we were walking around, it didn't happen once, it didn't happen twice, it happened 3 times when we were walking around the city. Somebody they knew said, and the mother's name is Maya. "Oh, "Hi, how are you today?" And they were a neighbor or somebody in their apartment building or somebody, a mom from a schoolmate or something like that. And I could not, if we were standing at a traffic light waiting to cross the street, I said, "You know, people, I walk out of my building, I never see anyone that I know." And here she goes, "Oh, every day. We're such a small town. You will always run into somebody that you know." And I was just flabbergasted. I go, "Never in my city. We're 4.5 million people. Never would that happen."
Right. Yeah. Even here, I'm surprised. Pittsburgh is a good sized city. It's not one of the biggest cities, obviously, but even still, I feel like I know so many people. If I go to like a sporting event or something, I'm always kind of shocked that I don't see somebody that I
Yeah.
know, and I just don't. I just don't.
No, no, it was just, I just found that the big community. I was like, this is what I love to see. I like, this is, it felt very warm and supportive. Everyone was looking out for one another. I was like, that's amazing. I just love seeing that. So I have really kind and wonderful memory of Gibraltar. There are a few things to see, but my takeaway is, how did it make me feel? And it made me feel very happy, and I really liked Gibraltar. It was great.
That's awesome. Do
Yeah,
you
then
remember? I was just gonna say, do you remember where you went from there, or after that?
oh, we'd all be out of order. I remember we went to Cartagena, Spain, and we had been there before, and we had done like the museums. There's a lot of history there. Um, and the food is great. We did a food tour before, but we had accidentally, no, again, it was our friends who were in Malaga. They're there for 2 months and they travel around, and they met us in Cartagena one time. We didn't have a lot of time. We had like 2 hours, and we're like, "Well, what do we wanna do?" So we sat down just off the main drag, and it was a little coffee shop, and in Spain, the, local dish is, at breakfast time, is a tomato sandwich. I'm like, "What the heck is a tomato sandwich?" So it's their version of the Italian bruschetta that they have, but it literally is just crushed, tomato on a baguette with olive oil and salt.
And it's wonderful, by the way. My ex-wife and my daughter had she took my daughter there to Barcelona for her 16th birthday, and when they came back, she had to make me tomato bread. She had to make
It's
it for
amazing.
me, and it was yes.
It's amazing. So this trip, what we went to Cartagena, my husband's there, "Well, what do you wanna do?" And I said, "I wanna go back to that coffee shop. It opens up at 11, and I wanna sit down, and you're gonna have your espresso, and I'm gonna have that tomato sandwich," because we've tried to replicate it. Didn't really work out the first time, but going back the second time, we actually sat inside and we saw them making it. They actually take a cheese grater, all right? And they grate the tomato, and that's how they do it. That's how simple and basic it is. And that was the funnest thing. I go, I'm happy we can go back to the ship. I know how to make this now. And we didn't order one. We ordered three. And it was
I love it.
that was my perfect day. I go, I didn't have to be around any crowd or anything, no rushing around. Again, like when you're on a cruise ship, there's always these volumes of people. We inundate every retailer, every shop, every tourist site that you see. There's just always people around. So it was just very calm. I go, that was a great day. I loved it.
Do you enjoy when you're in places and even on a cruise when you're not doing your puzzling? Do you enjoy people watching?
Yeah, we do, and we often say, "Why does that not work in Toronto?" Well, I know why it doesn't work because we don't have any real pedestrian-only places. Like, if I sat down somewhere and had a coffee, you're on the sidewalk and it's road. I see cars honking and we have traffic. Like, that's not pleasant for me. I like it when there's a cobblestone street, stone street, and it's only people walking by. We don't have that here in Toronto, and there's not a lot of places in the States that have it either. There are a few, absolutely the few, but there's not enough. And I personally wish my city would recognize that and shut some street down and make it pedestrian only. That would be fun.
Yeah, it's like you almost have to go to like a suburb of a large city in order to find something like that. But then what else is in that suburb? And else would, why else would you go there?
Yeah.
You don't want to
Yeah.
travel that far just to people watch, but yeah,
Well,
I get it.
yeah. So, like, that's something that is very European. And I know when we're home a lot, I go, I miss all that, the charm of an old city and, just sitting out having a cafe and watching people go by. And some are tourists and a lot of them are locals. And, I love seeing the moms taking the kids to school or whatever it is. It's great, but don't get that opportunity where I live.
Segueing a little bit off from the cruise line part, but on the subject, on the topic that we're talking about right now, do you have any places that just jump to your mind that were like your favorite places that you actually, sitting outside at a little table having a coffee, or, like what are your favorite towns that you can think of that maybe I should try to go to for something like that?
Well, oh,
And again, Europe is obviously, like you said, it's
you're
the
it
perfect
is your
place.
and it doesn't matter if you say Paris or Italy or
No.
Germany or Budapest, you will find that. But that would not be my favorite place that I've been. My favorite place where I got to sit and watch, it's sort of different, and it is cruise involved. It was the Panama Canal. And first of all, to travel through the Panama Canal, we've done it 3 times, and 2 of them were puzzling gigs. But I will keep going back to this place. The Panama Canal is just an incredible experience. The engineering on how they built that canal. I've had different rangers on each cruise. They all come with some different history or trivia. It never gets old. I'm always impressed. I'm just wow. And now that there's the super canal there, the place that we like to go is when one of the ports, it's either the beginning of your cruise or the end, and I can't tell you which because it just depends which direction you're going through. You can do an excursion, and we did this excursion once, and then the next time we just took a cab here because the excursion, you got on the bus and then they took you to a park and it was a viewing deck. So think about going to a horse race and they have a stadium right there, all the chairs that you can sit on a stadium, and all you do is you sit there and watch the ships go by. All right. For the excursion, I think we had an hour, and then they had a little documentary that might have been 10, 15 minutes. And then you were ushered back on the bus, and then you went to a city and you did a walking tour. That was fine. But I wanted to sit, I wanted to watch the freighters come through. I wanted to watch the cruise ships come through. It's just mind blowing watching that. So that was my favorite thing to do. Now you can bring your own little sandwich. They have picnic areas there. It doesn't have to, you don't have to spend, actually, you have to spend money to go in there, but it's very minimal. And then the cab ride there, what was it, like maybe $10? Again, it's nothing. And I was just like, that made me very happy. We sat there, we've done it twice now. I sat there and I've put my camera, a tripod on, and I've done the time lapse, and the ships come through back and forth. You see the water opening, the gates opening and closing. It's just I post it on my platform. I send it to my kids. I go, "Isn't this amazing?" And you never know what ships are going to come through. Some are small, some are big, and then you're looking at the ships. We talk about people watching. We're going, "Where'd that ship come from?" You're trying to read the markings on the ship and what the cargo is. You're like, "Oh my god, those are all cars," or whatever it is. That is one of my favorite places to go, and it's not expensive if you're there. It's a perfect day.
That's so awesome. That was completely unexpected as an answer, and I absolutely love it because it's something I never would have ever even thought about. But it sounds like a really cool experience to have. So,
It is. It is, and like if you went to, uh, the Sydney Harbor, all that boat traffic that goes back and forth, if you go across from the Opera Center, there's a little parkette there, and you can do the same thing. And you bring your little lunch and your coffee or whatever, you can set up your tripod, and you can film time lapse film all the boats and ferries, and there's cruise ships there. Or you don't have to film it, but just sitting there, like that harbor has so much traffic, and they have yachts and stuff like that. They're different ships, obviously, but I was like, this is the coolest thing. I could sit here all day and just watch this.
Yeah, and you're in such a beautiful setting too, so
Yeah.
that's it doesn't hurt any. So, well, that's awesome. Thank you. And I didn't mean to sidetrack you.
No.
I can't. I just glanced at the clock. I can't believe we're getting close to an hour already. Which I'm in no rush. But I want to let you take the reins and you go wherever you'd like to go. Continuing from here. I'm sorry.
Well, that's all right. I think this whole episode we've been segueing back and forth, and that's what it should be. So I'm very happy. I think something that we were trying to get to was traveling in different stages. Like when my husband and I were young, we did all the Club Meds, and those were fun. That suited us at the time. We maybe did a few bigger trips. I know he took me to Paris because every young girl wants to go to Paris. And that was very nice. And that's what we did. Like traveling has changed so much for us now that we are retired, we're seniors. When we were kids, we definitely, our traveling agenda was very different. It was all about what the kids would like, again, trying to make it a little bit fun and educational. Obviously we did a lot of theme parks. We did the Disney and the Busch Gardens, stuff like that. But now we're traveling for us. Well, I'd love to go and walk around the city for a week and explore. But at the same time, because we've done so much traveling, I just feel sometimes I don't feel safe. I want to believe the world is safe, but I don't want to be naive either. So, like, I remember I was in Chile with my sister and we were at a market and she was taking a picture and somebody came up and snapped her phone right out of her hand. We weren't prepared for that. So, and I've heard many people how they have the pickpocketers in different cities. I don't feel comfortable about that. So doing a big trip now, it's something that I wouldn't consider. Walking, yes, we can walk and we walk. Oh, we definitely do 10,000 steps a day. But do I want to do a lot of walking? No, I don't want to do 20,000 steps. But that's too much. So I'm always thinking what is good for us. And then the eating, as we get older, your stomach can't handle all these foods. I know what's good on the cruise, and they look after me. I'll venture out and try some different foods at lunchtime if I'm doing some other city tour or whatever. But picking a dinner place, sometimes you don't know the language. I can't read the menu. I know I'm not being as adventurous. I just feel that has passed me now. We're traveling more practical. That's what I'm saying. So that is why we cruise a lot.
Yeah. And honestly, like that's what it should be about is what makes you comfortable and happy, not necessarily adventurous or being out of your comfort zone, unless that's what you strive for. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean you're doing it right because it's right to you. So
Yeah. Like, if somebody says, oh, I'm going to Africa and I'm going to do a safari and stuff like that. You know what? I don't agree with all of the poachers and stuff like that. And I don't like that I'm housed in some gorgeous hotel. And what I'm seeing all around me, they have nothing. Like, I don't need to, wave that in somebody's face. I have money and you don't have money. I'm not into that. It's like that's not a place I want to go to. I know I always wanted to go to Egypt and do the pyramids. That's not a place that's on my list anymore. I just don't feel it's safe. I've heard so many people say they went and they've been on a bus tour and it's a caravan and they go with an escort in there and they show them pictures. I'm like, oh my God, are you kidding me? People with guns and stuff like that. I go, that doesn't make me feel happy. I feel extremely uncomfortable, and that's not what I want to do.
yeah, absolutely. So was there any other parts of this recent cruise that we missed? I don't want to move too far away from it and miss out on some of your recent travel.
No, this trip was interesting because we ended in Barcelona, and right now Barcelona is having a rotating baggage handler strike. Of course, it started on the day we disembarked the ship.
Oh no.
And we've encountered almost almost everything in our travels, especially on the cruises with somebody being evacuated or, somebody breaking a leg or a typhoon. Or I swear everything has happened. You can't tell me a story. I was like, oh, yeah, that's happened to us. But this baggage handler strike was interesting. I was like, oh my goodness. Well, I come with two huge full suitcases of puzzles. And I'm like, well, that's thousands of dollars of puzzles in my suitcases. These suitcases need to find me again. I'm very nervous about this baggage handler strike. And the way it worked out, we had separate flights, and I was like, what are we going to do if we lose these suitcases? So we took all the valuable puzzles, and a wood puzzle is very valuable. Like they're easily $100, $200 one puzzle. And we carried it all in our carry on. Man, they were heavy. I'm so glad they didn't weigh those. And we each had 2 bags of carry-on full of these heavy, heavy puzzles, and I'm by myself having to carry this. My husband's not with me, and I had to have the 2 big suitcases. So that in Barcelona, had a great trip, and I'm not saying I was soured. Like, everyone has the right to strike and ask for more, so I was very sympathetic to the cause. I was like, "Oh my goodness." It worked out. My suitcases followed me home. It wasn't so disruptive. But I was prepared for the worst.
That's fantastic. Now you've piqued my interest though, because you said something that like all of these different kind of things have happened to you. Can you expand on that at all and tell maybe any of the like most incredible stories of anything that's happened with one of the cruises that you've been on?
Oh, the most incredible stories. Well, I know one time we were in Japan. God, like this happened twice now. Once we were on a cruise with the kids, and there was um, what was it, a twister, and we could see the twisters developing in the distance on the water. And back then, now on a cruise, there's always a lifeguard. Back then, they didn't have a lifeguard on duty.
So
And
at this time you're at sea or you were in port?
yeah, no, we were at sea,
Oh my
and
gosh.
it was funny because let's say it was a week cruise, and in the dining room, we are sitting at the front or the back, definitely away from everybody else because I have 3 kids. All the families with small kids are sort of in this little nook because kids, they run around and stuff like that. People who are on a cruise, they don't want kids around them and being noisy and disruptive. So we're over in the corner, and we were all saying, "Oh, this was a really nice cruise, but we're ready to go back home because it's a lot of work traveling with your kids." And they're like, "Yeah, I'm ready to go home." And then we have this storm, these twisters. Oh my God, our trip got extended an extra 2 days.
Oh my
And we're
goodness.
sitting in the dining room with these other families, and we're all feeling, as parents, feeling the same thing. Oh, I wanted to get off. This is so hard with our kids, but that was one. And then I guess maybe about 8 months ago, we were traveling to Japan, and we had 2 extra days before we were leaving Japan to catch another cruise in Rome. Anyway, there was a typhoon happening the day we were supposed to disembark. And I must say, Royal Caribbean, with all our experiences, they always look out for your safety, and they go out of their way to make sure you're safe. And even though it was a disruption for us, like we missed 2 days in Japan, we barely caught a flight to go to Rome. We barely caught the next cruise, and it was like cost us $1,000 one way for the 2 of us to go from Japan to Rome. And we made the mistake where we booked them on different visas, so neither one of them covered it with your trip interruption. And they said, if you would have paid for each on the same visa, we could have done it. We're like, oh my God. So that came out of pocket. But at the end of the day, we're saying, you know what? We were safe. That was a nasty storm. We're so lucky we actually got to dock the next, or it was 2 days, 2 days later. That typhoon could have taken out the port, and we have seen, oh yeah, that happened in the Mississippi one day. That's right. We were coming in and a storm took out the dock, and it was another day. But there's always something. People, I don't mean to be negative, but people die, or they do the best they can. Like people have had heart attacks, and we turn around It may take us an extra day and it's taking a day and a half off of your cruise, but they really look after the safety of their passengers. It upsets me because some people go "Mm, they're very miserable and mad." And I go, somebody's life is on the line here. All right. If it was me, I'd appreciate getting the help because the medical staff that they do, they're very limited what they can do for you. So if they make that decision to change ports, you just have to go with it. So there is always something, you're all excited about going somewhere. Um, Again, I did this South American cruise around South America with my sister, and we were scheduled to go to the Falkland Islands, and it was a tender. I'm not particularly a fan of a tender because the water is really rocky, and everyone's saying, "Oh my God, it's such a rough ride on the tender to go to the island." And then I was like, "Oh, I'm not going to go off the ship. I'm going to stay." And then someone said, "Do you know only 1 out of 10 ships that have this on the itinerary actually get to dock because of the weather?" And I was like, "I didn't know that." And we were one of those 10, that one ship that had the opportunity to get off. And I was like, "Okay, I'll get off." Oh my God, that place was amazing. It's such a small town, and the town people know that if the ship actually docks, they don't dock, but if a tender they can get the tender out, all hands on deck. So if you're working at the garden center, or you're the school bus driver, all hands on deck. All of a sudden, you're not the bus driver anymore. You're the tourist bus driver now. All right, you're taking the people to the Penguin National Park. You're at the garden center closed. You're helping out at the pub because everyone comes to the pub and you're serving beer. It's such a community. I was like, holy cow. And then the Penguins, that was one of the best stops on that cruise. And I was just so grateful listening to other people go, "Oh, honey, you got to get off. Like, you're going to be so impressed with that." And I was. But again, things always happen. So if that's on your itinerary, be prepared that you might not be able to do that. And there have been lots of places where we've not been able to dock. Like we hear every year there's some terrible storm in the Caribbean and it's taken out ports. Well, we've gone like the week after that, we don't get off because the place is devastated. And I'm just like, oh my God, it's just terrible. More things that happen there, sad, negative things. I trying to remember happy things. Sometimes we've seen weddings on the cruise ship, like real weddings where the captain is the officiator. The bride wears her dress all day. Like, why wouldn't you? And she might even wear all cruise. And it just makes me so happy, which is very smart of them because everybody buys them their drinks the whole
Yeah,
cruise.
absolutely. You should you should try that. Next cruise, just wear a wedding gown all day.
Yeah, yeah. Well, there's just always something. I can't like, you'll go on a cruise and well, guess what? The entertainment didn't make it. There was a storm. Their equipment might have made it, but they didn't make it, or vice versa. They made it, but their equipment did it. So now they're scrambling like, oh my God, I'm a juggler. I have nothing to juggle. My equipment didn't make it. And so, they're ab libbing on stage. It's quite funny, but stuff always happens.
That's so incredible. This has been so awesome. I really enjoyed having this discussion with you. Thinking just in the interest of time, probably heading towards our final 5 questions relatively soon, but I want to give you the opportunity, of course. Any other stories that stand out to you in your travels that you want to make sure that you share with our listeners
Oof,
before we
I
do that?
I cannot think of anything right now. It was always you always sparked a memory with, something that we were talking about previously.
Yeah. And when I ask the final 5 questions, it could be also could spark some memories and some other stories that you may want to tell as well. So
Okay.
if you're good with that, then we can kind of jump in.
Go.
All right. So, question number one, we didn't talk much about food, except you did mention that your appetites have changed, or what you can safely eat has changed over the years. But I'll ask this question, and I always phrase the question very specifically. So, question number one, Monica, is: of all the places in the world that you have ever been, where are the one or two favorite meal experiences that you've ever had?
I do. I have two. Please don't ask me the name of the restaurants because my husband would know. And one was in Venice, and we did take our children there. And it was hot, and we walked so much. And we went in it wasn't even the main drag; it was way off of where the tourists are. And we found this restaurant, and we're like, "Oh, okay." Now I've gone back, and I've gone back to that restaurant 3 times now. The waiters are the same. It's been 20 years. The waiters are the same,
I love it.
and it's where the locals go. So you'll get a real authentic dish from Venice. Uh, the ink squid there. But I remember it so clearly because my daughters tried the ink squid, and then they smiled and all their teeth were all black, and we laughed and had a hoot. They made their own prosecco. The dishes were amazing, and it wasn't expensive. So that was one of my favorite restaurants. And then the other one that I really like is in Malaga. It's on the beach, and it's way past the port. It was a good hour walk along the boardwalk. And what is so unique about this place is the waiters will come out with a tray, and they'll have all sorts of different tapas. And they'll go, I got calamari, calamari, who wants calamari? And all you do is sort of put up your paddle, and you're like, oh, I'll take that. And then they give it to you. You do not look at a menu. You wait for the waiters to come out, and there's probably 20 different dishes. And the way the bill works is depending on what your plate color is. That red color plate could be €5. This yellow color plate could be $2. And then they count the plates and add it up at the end as you have picked everything as they walk around. And the waiters try to outshout each other, and they walk up and down the aisles, and you may have missed them because they had maybe 20 dishes of whatever it is. And you're like, oh, I wanted to try that. Or you don't even know what it is. And you're just looking, you look at it and like, well, that looks good. Let's get that. But I just loved how interactive that was. It was very exciting and loud and stimulating. And I was like, this was great.
It's a great idea because it kind of makes you not anxious necessarily, but like like that FOMO thing, fear of missing out. Like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, I have to try that. I don't even know what else is coming, but I have to try that. What if I don't ever have a chance again? Yeah,
Well, those were my two favorite.
that's really 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 cool. So okay, excellent answers by the way. So question number two is, I always say this, it's probably my favorite question, and it's only because of the interesting answers that I get on this one. And some people don't have an answer, and that's okay if you don't.
Okay.
So, question number two is, of all the places in the world that you have ever been, even if I was to say to you, Monica, here is a free trip, go enjoy yourself, you would say, no, thank you, I don't want to go back.
Oh, that's a trick question. Let me just think now. Uh, oh, where would I not want to go back to? Oh, see, I should have prepared for that one because I know there are places I don't want to go back to. Oh, yes, it is in Cartagena in South America there. When you get off the cruise ship, there's this lovely little garden place with some animals like the parrots and the monkey. That part is great. We took an excursion into town, and I really found that had to be the most aggressive place for peddlers or people approaching me. We were with 4 other couples, and it was so the tour took us to maybe about 6 different spots where he dropped us off when we came back on the bus. And every time there were little vendors selling their things. And it has happened. That's how these people make a living. But it was too aggressive for me in that they would be in my face, nose to nose, and they would take my hand and they put a bottle of water. Here's some water for you. And if it was €3 and I didn't want the water and I would try to give it back to them, they wouldn't take it back. And then they put their hand out and they'd say, $3, $3, $3. And I'm like, "Oh my god, you're not taking it back to my husband." So I would just finally put it on the ground, and they would do this for all 6 stops. I actually became very uncomfortable there. Everybody on the bus was feeling uncomfortable. The bus driver, he had obviously some, underhanded, paid me cash under the table, bring people to us. And it wasn't just one vendor. You'd get off in the square, and there were probably 50 different vendors. Like, I you would feel like a famous person of all these paparazzi taking pictures of you, and your security guard had to part the way for you to get into the theater or something like that, but it was with people around you. So probably by the 5th place, we were all in agreement. The driver was very upset with us, and we said, "Take us back to the ship. This is too much. Someone's gonna get hurt." And I hurt my leg a while ago, so I'm always unsteady, and when someone's in front of me, I felt I had to push them out of the way, but I couldn't see where I was stepping, and I kept saying to my husband, I go, "I'm not getting off the next time, like, I'm gonna fall. Can't see where I'm stepping because 'cause they're standing in front of me and they're not moving." So I would not go back there.
Wow. That's an incredible. I mean, it's not even enjoyable at that point. So it's
No,
just terrible.
no. And
And
and I want to support, like, if you go, there's so many places. You go in the Caribbean, you sit on the beach, and you always have the lady walking up and down. "Can I braid your hair, lady?" Or, she's wearing 10 hats. Do you wanna buy a hat or something like that? This is their living. I appreciate that, and
right.
I can look at their things, but they're civil and they're decent about that, and I might even buy something, but that was out of hand.
Yeah, that's taking things too far. Yeah, and when you go to a lot of the big cities that you go to, and a lot of the places like that, yeah, you like you said, and you'll get somebody with coconuts or somebody with whatever, but they're not pushy.
No.
It's a question. You can say no, thank you, and keep moving, and it's fine.
Yeah, I
That's the way it should be. So, well, let's make it happier. Let's flip this one on its head and go with question number three, which is the exact opposite. But I do have a caveat that I add. So, Monica, of all the places in the world that you have ever been, where are the one or if you only had one or two more trips left in you for some reason, what are those one or two
Ooh.
destinations that you would absolutely have to go back to?
Go back to, well, there's places I haven't been to yet that I keep saying to my husband, I want to do that, but
Well,
that's not
that's it's coming up.
so okay, so let me just say, where do I want to go back to? It's all about, I'm thinking about how it made me feel. That's what I'm thinking about. We had a good time. I think I would like to go back to Santorini with my husband, but not as part of the cruise. I'd like to be in a hotel and sit there and then just have a meal in the evening and look at the beautiful lights and everything. I think I'd really like to do that because the food was amazing. It's all, fresh fish, and it was just so lovely. And again, when we were there, it's full of tourists. Like, once the cruise ships leave, like, any port, 4 o'clock, oh my God, if you're staying there, it's so quiet and it's amazing. So that would be where I want to go. Yep.
And I would say, and we talked about this before, I think actually, having experienced Santorini for a number of nights, you made the right choice. You're making the right choice.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
It's so wonderful to just sit and relax and just enjoy the beauty and the food. And so,
Yep, and the people, because I almost think that their whole attitude changes. The people that are working in the tourist industry with the restaurant. In the day, it's a hustle to get everybody coming in and stuff like that. Well, now it's dinner time and the cruise ship is gone. Now you're not being rushed out of your seat. You can sit there. If anything, they're going to do is like, "Would you like another bottle of wine?" And I'm like, "Bring it."
exactly. I don't know if I told you this story. I'll be very brief on this, but just to your point, when we went, we started in Athens and then we took the shuttle ferry, and we were supposed to take one in the afternoon, but actually my wife at the time, her something happened with the date, and so she had booked the wrong day, so we had to wait for the next one, and we were supposed to take the slow ferry so we could actually just enjoy it. We ended up taking the next one, which was a speed ferry, which was not as enjoyable, but we didn't get in until later than we had planned. We had rented a place up in Ia, and when we got up there, the gentleman that was caretaker actually met us. Thank goodness he met us there because there
Yeah.
was tons and tons of
Yep.
steps. And so he just threw our bags up on his big burly guy, our bags up on his shoulders and brought us to our room. And that time, it was getting close to probably 9:30 or 10 o'clock at night, and we were starving. And so we were walking around the little narrow walkways, and we came upon this little restaurant that was still open. And thank goodness, it was a beautiful view. It was an
Oh,
incredible meal experience that I still remember to this day. But
oh.
I feel like it was a family run place because there was some bickering going on in the background between, I think, the mom and her son, I think is what it was. And she didn't really speak English, but she had come over at one point a little bit later on and she apologized and whatever. But the meal was so good and it was so nice that she apologized to us, which she didn't have to do. The day before we left, a few days later, we decided to go back, even though we want to keep trying new things because you may never be back. And so we went back there again for our final dinner, and she remembered us. And she brought us over a dessert on the house when we were all done eating, just as a thank you for still coming back. It was just a wonderful experience. And honestly, even whatever they had going on for Komodo, that didn't even bother us. Like, that wasn't a big deal, but they were embarrassed. So, but yeah.
That sounds heaven to have done that. And again, it made you feel good. That's what you're remembering is you're remembering the taste of the meal. I love that story.
Yeah, it was absolutely fantastic. So, and as a matter of fact, if and when I do go back to Santorini, I will absolutely go back to that restaurant again too. Okay.
Wonderful.
So number 4 is the question you sounded like you'd like to answer. But I'm going to limit you again. So I'm going to say, and you can add more if you'd like, but I'm going to limit you to begin with at least. Number 4 is, of all the places in the world that you have never been, if you only had 1 or 2 trips left in your lifetime for some reason, what are those 1 or 2 places you absolutely have to get to?
Well, we want to do, I really want to do a Christmas market where you go to Vienna and Budapest and Prague, and you sort of do a circuit of all the Christmas festivals. That I would really like to do. But the two places that I really want to go to is Budapest and Prague. They're just classic, beautiful, historic European cities, a lot of history, a lot of beautiful buildings that I want to see. And we keep talking about it. It's just my daughter just had her second child, and we feel, we want to help out right now. Now's not the time to do those. And in working with Royal Caribbean and the few trips that we've booked, it's not in the cards for a little while. So I do hope we get to do that maybe in the next 5 years.
And you said Budapest
Prague.
and Prague? Okay. And
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you because I don't know if I told you this. My daughter went to university in Prague, actually. So I've been there a couple of times. It is absolutely stunning. Never been to Budapest. It was on it. We were attempting to go there, and for whatever reason, in this trip that we had, which was a Christmas market trip, we did not make it to Budapest, but we did get to Regensburg, Germany. We went through like all these different places kind of along the way. We took trains and then came back through Vienna and back up to Prague, and absolutely highly, highly recommend. So yeah, I'll be jealous of you when you actually get to go do that because it's fantastic. There's a couple photos of Vienna, which we didn't spend a ton of time in. Some of the most beautiful photographs that I have of those
Yeah.
at Christmas time. So
Yeah, it looks gorgeous. I don't have the collection anymore, but when I was in Germany, my cousin took me to a Christkindl Mart in Nuremberg, and he bought me a nutcracker. From that moment, I started collecting nutcrackers, but only real ones. So Steinbeck is one brand. And, for my birthday or anniversary, my husband would buy me an authentic nutcracker. And Steinbeck makes them all different characters: a cook, a chimney cleaner, a fisherman. So they're not just Santa Clauses, they were everything. So I probably had a collection of, I'm going to say 60 beautiful nutcrackers.
oh
And
my
they would
god.
be all year long because they're just so colorful, and they decorated my wall. But then we had a house back then. Now we're in a very small condo. It's just under 1,000 square feet. So when we made the big move, I asked my girls if they wanted it, and they're like, "No, Mom, that was your collection." I was like, "Oh my goodness." And they go, "We love it, but we don't want it." I was like, "Oh, okay, big shocker." So I sold it, but I had always thought we'd be able to do that Christmas market, and I'd be able to buy 1 or 2 nutcrackers actually at one of these markets, but now I don't have the collection anymore.
Oh my gosh. Well, you have the memories though, right?
I do.
So that's beautiful. So, question number 5, the final question, is very easy because you are going to obviously know the answer. And question 5 for you, Monica, is what's on your agenda? Where are you going? What's planned for the rest of maybe this year and into next year?
Oh god, this is the busiest year we got going on. So like I said, in about 3 weeks, I'm going to San Francisco to help my daughter with a new baby. And then from there, my husband will meet me and we're going to fly to Japan and we're spending about 4 or 5 days and we're doing, oh, I know what I'm going to do in Japan. A self-guided toilet tour.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
Have you heard about it?
I have. It's been a long time since I've heard about it. I forgot that that existed.
Okay, well, I said to my husband, I go, we're going to do a food tour, and then I want to do this self-guided tour. So I don't know, I think there's like 20, 30 different very interesting toilets. And I seen a few images online. I go, this is exactly what I wanted to. So we're going to Japan, and then from there, we take a cruise, and the cruise will take us to Vancouver, and then we'll fly back to San Francisco to help with the babies again.
And you said this one is not a puzzle cruise. It's just for you.
It's just for us, but I guarantee you I will be bringing a few puzzles and I'll be sitting in the solarium puzzling.
I would expect nothing else less than that. So this has been absolutely fantastic, Monica. Is there anything that jumped into your mind, any other stories that you just thought of and went, oh boy, I got to share that before we wrap?
No, I loved your 5 questions. They were very interesting. And, this talk has just been so much fun. And we've talked for an hour and a half. Holy cow.
I know. It's shocking. I couldn't believe it when I looked at like I said, we were about hour 5, hour 10. And I was like, there's no way that's already been that long. So, well, let me give you the opportunity then for one last thing. Anything that you would like to say to the listeners, anything you'd like to add before we hit stop?
Well, you know what? If they're cruisers and they want to join us on a cruise, that would be amazing. I'd love to meet them. If they're puzzlers, and if they like puzzling, check us out. We're puzzled about everything on Instagram.
And let them know that you heard about them on the Where Have You Been podcast.
Absolutely.
It would be very cool to have that connection. I think that would be awesome.
And then I could tell you about your reach.
Oh, absolutely. And I will absolutely be planning to attend one of your cruises, depending on where you leave from and where I can get to easily and when they are. But I'll be following you on Instagram because you post everything on there about your upcoming itineraries.
Yeah, it's sort of a scary. Yeah, the website, absolutely. But on Instagram, it gets buried very quickly.
Okay. Do you have a newsletter by chance?
No, I do not.
Okay.
That's what.
If you did, I would subscribe. Well, excellent. This has been so much fun. I thank you so much for taking this time with me, Monica. I really enjoyed your stories, and you've actually brought some things to my mind, like the Panama Canal is maybe a destination for me someday.
Good.
Right. But I think that's a great idea, and I look forward to following along with what you have going on. And again, I will be joining you someday. So thank you so much, and have a great rest of your day.
Thanks for having me. Take care.
And there's another episode of the Where Have You Been podcast in the books. Thank you so much for listening today. It was another great guest with some great stories, as always. And I hope that you will support all of the guests by checking out the show notes and going to their web pages, seeing any socials and projects that they may have going on. And please, again, I'll ask as always to like, subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. It really does help to allow the podcast to grow and reach more people, and I appreciate you for doing that. Also, if you haven't done so, check out the website, whydpodcast.com, where you can find blog posts. If you'd like to be a guest, please register to be a guest on the site, and check out the merch page. There's some really cool stuff if you're interested in representing the pod, along with some other cool travel items and apparel that I'm working on every day as well. Join me again next week for another great guest with more incredible stories. New episodes drop every Sunday just after midnight Eastern Time. Until then, thank you for being here and have a great day.